This video is going to be about me attempting to take this gauge apart so that I can remove the delaminated plastic from behind the glass so I can restore this gauge. Most of them are like that, some of them aren't, but I've got the gauges out and I'll show you how I did that, and I'll show you how I'm taking this apart. Stay tuned. All right, so you have to work this back lip right there where my thumbnail is. You're gonna have to fold that up and work it off all the way around just a little bit. Careful not to get into the outer ring. You don't want to get anything sharp. And you can see here that I've already started to work it off, and it's going to peel right off. All right, I believe I've got the edge bent back enough to where it's going to pop off. And there we go. Gauge looks perfect underneath, but you can see how bad it looks on the inside. And from what I've been told, this is just a plastic cover that goes over the glass. So now I need to find out what to do about getting that off. So when I was working on the dash with all the sanding and stuff, I went ahead and removed the instruments, all the gauges out of the 911. Marked all the wires because there's probably 10 wires or better on each gauge except for the clock, and it only had like 3. So a lot of confusion. I did a video of that a little bit, but it was mainly for my purpose to go back and look to see where things were at. So let's show you what the gauges look like. All right, so as you can see, I've already pulled the trim rings and the glass off of the gauges. I'm going to put new faces on the gauges or customize these faces. I had to remove the face of the Speedo and get out a couple of bulbs that had fallen through the holes. And I'm going to repaint all of the trim rings that go around the lenses that go on the gauges. Now, as you can see, some of these you can't even see through, and it's got a protective film on the back of it. Now, a lot of times the film is peeling off, and you can just peel it the rest of the way off and clean the plastic, because the plastic is not smoky, it's the protective lens. Unfortunately, mine aren't peeling, and I've hit it with a heat gun and I can't get it to peel, but you can't see through some of them. So I ordered some plastic, and we're going to cut our own lenses for these because they are plastic. I ordered some shatterproof plastic. The only one I'm worried about right now is the clock. So I've got to figure out how to get the second hand undone. And I believe there's a little pin in here, but I don't know for sure. But the gauges are in really good shape. And this particular trim ring shows a lot of pitting, a lot of little rust pitting. So I've already started sanding it down. Hopefully this is going to come out good. It beats having to buy a set of gauges, and we need to be able to see them. So I drug out my tools for straightening stainless steel, and I have done hundreds and hundreds of feet of all the cars that I built. But this is the ring that was rusted, and because it was rusted, or the reason that it was rusted is because the previous person had already replaced the lens once. This one was actually glass in the car, so they bought a replacement piece of glass instead of the plastic. Well, when they took it off, you pry this back ledge up to remove the glass and the stuff, and they have dented it all in, and where they dented it, messed up the painted surface, and that's where the rust was coming from. So now all these dark spots here that you see are little dents, and they're not going to show up. There's a piece of rubber that holds the gas, that holds it in and everything, and it's really tight up in the dash. But we're going to paint this, and it's going to be seen by you actually, before it goes in the car, and it's going to be seen by me. Any job worth doing is worth doing right. So we're going to take out these dents right here, and then we can repaint this and it'll look good. So some of the techniques that I use, this is a little anvil, and it's just for doing what I'm doing. You can press these things out because you can see the dent from this side too. You can also rub them out with the blunt end of a screwdriver. This is a tent stake. This is how simple these tools are. I have used this so much for both ends. You can tap it, because it doesn't take much. With a blunt end, you can hit it kind of like a hammer, because this gets down in there where this aluminum hammer doesn't get in there, and my little trim hammer, it doesn't fit in there either. I've got this little wooden file handle that I modify the end on, and we can use it. And what I do with it, it's almost like an eraser. I sandwich the two pieces of metal together, pushing down hard on this one, and in the exact spot where it meets the anvil, I just put a little bit of pressure and I work my way around. And what it's doing, it's smoothing out all these little dents. Now, keep in mind, any of these little dents that you are trying to get out are stretched metal. So all you're trying to do is get it back to where it was without stretching it anymore. Sometimes if it's super, super stretched, you're not going to be able to get it back in place without putting a little bit of heat to it. And on something this small, I'd be scared to put heat on it. You don't want it to get warped up on you or blow a hole in it. Anyway, we won't really know. They're starting to feel smooth, but we really won't know how good a job we did until I go over and see if any of the dark colors will stand out. Some of these right here are still low, so let's work on those. Anyway, just wanted to show you guys that while I'm doing it, and explain some of that to you. Maybe we'll work on some stainless together here soon. All right, so I'm working on these gauges and I'm replacing the lenses. 1974 Porsche 911, and it's real common that these lenses have a poly or a plastic film on the backside to help with glare. And that's just what I've been reading. Anyway, you can see how smoky they are. Some are worse than the other. A couple of them are glass. Unfortunately, I can't, on these plastic ones, the poly, you can see the edge of it right there, will not unadhere with heat guns or anything. The clock is the worst one to try to get off because it's got this seconds hand in it. So I've been working and trying to get it off, and I finally got all the rust and debris off of this knob, and you can see I've driven the pin out. All right, you can see the little pin right there. It is microscopic when you're trying to get it out. So I managed to get that out, and I'm going to see now if I can get this apart. And if I can, that's how you do it. I know I haven't seen anything around that tells you how to do this, except for one article buried in the forum on Pelican. So anyway, let me see if I can't get this off, and then if we can, then we're gonna go ahead and start cutting these lenses out. All right, so here's how I got it out. I got it chucked up in my soft jaws on the vise. I put a small screwdriver with a barrel, a smooth barrel on it, and then I used this pick, this little dental pick, put it down in, and then started lightly tapping it with my trim hammer. And it came out as far as you saw it a while ago. Looks like it's got a little spring around it. And then that's going to be fun to get back in there. That little barrel has got a hole in it that pin goes through. So that's going to be impossible to find. All right, you can see that little barrel that's coming through. It's got a little hole in it that pin was in, along with the cap and spring in my hand. So that's not going to be fun to get back in. But it looks like we did what we wanted to do, and we've got everything out. Now we'll get this needle off and see if we can't get through the next step. Now it appears that I need to get this little rivet unflared so that I can remove the rest of it. This is mainly for me to know how to put it back together. All right, there we go. We got it apart. And the only problem is now I realize that this is more than just a round piece of glass. I've got to make that step in there also, and it has to be perfect. So, yeah, if I can't do this, we'll end up having to buy one. So. All right, so at this point, I've got the second needle assembly disassembled. Got that little bitty pin out right there. And I've already got the new piece of plexiglass right there. And I've got it rough cut. Center's marked. I'm fixing to drill the center hole. And then I'm going to come back and do the countersunk part. I hope I'm doing that in the right order. I don't know if I need to do the countersunk part first and then do the center. I don't know. All right, well, I screwed the two together, and yeah, let's see if this one is going to work. It may be a little thicker than the originals, but let's go see if it'll fit. And these are the rings that hold the gauges together. And there's the outer ring, an inner ring, and then like a locking ring. I'm gonna lay these out here and we're gonna squirt these down with a little bit of paint. They've already all been sanded. I'm gonna have to hit them with primer first. And then we'll put these things back together. You can call me Lord of the Rings. Look at there, this 6-foot board here has barely got enough room for all these things. That's 5 gauges worth. So let's hit these with some paint. All right, a few of these were heavily pitted, and I had to sand them down to the bare metal where the moisture inside the car got to them over the years. So there we have it. That's some etching primer just out of a can, and then we'll let that dry, and I may have to sand one or two of them, and then we'll hit them with some satin black. I think that's probably going to be the best choice. I thought about doing silver, and then I thought about putting white face gauges in it, and then I've gone back to putting it back stock. So let's go take a look at the gauges. Here's some of the old lenses, and you can see they're kind of beat up and cracked, not to mention the fact that they're all smoky. So I've got some Lexan. I've already cut out some rough circles to make some new lenses. And I'm gonna go ahead and show you the one that I started with, and that's gonna be the clock. So that is after the paint and the new lens. And I've got all of these to go. I've already cleaned up all the faces. All I've got left to do is to touch up the needles like I did in the clock. You can see how bright the clock is. So I've got to touch up the needles in the rest of these gauges, and then we'll start putting them back together. Now the tack actually had a piece of glass, and I'm going to reuse this glass. There's nothing wrong with it, and I'm not sure why the tack had glass and the rest of the gauges were flat and plastic. All the gauges are the gauges that match the car, so I don't know why that was, but you can see how bad they were. You cannot even see through this gauge right here, and that's what 3 of them look like right there. We're going to see if we can't restore these things on the cheap. So got a couple more to clean up, and then we got to paint these needles, and then we're good to go. All right, no custom tricks here. Just sanded a few of the primered ones down a little bit, hit them again, and just put 1 coat of semi-gloss. And we're gonna hit this again, make sure it comes out good. I think semi-gloss is gonna be perfect. I think gloss would be too cheap. So look out, baby, here we come. And the last coat goes on. I sure hope they're pretty when they're back as gauges. Well, got to clean the inside of these gauges now. It's been a very hectic week at the shop. Doing the transmission in the Bronco, and then finishing up the motor and getting it all running. Tools are everywhere. I'm gonna have to quit and clean up because I just can't stand it. But I thought I'd go ahead and clean these gauges up, show you guys what I did on these vintage VDO gauges. Of course, this is for the 911 project. You hot rod guys, don't quit watching, because we're gonna have fun with that. After I put it back together, just to give you an idea of what it used to look like before, after. All right, so I've rough cut out my 1/8 inch Lexan, and now I'm going to do the final sizing so that we'll have some new gauge lenses. Well, there we go. We got new lenses. I hadn't peeled off the plastic yet. I don't really want to do that until I get ready to install them here. But 1/8 inch 0.118 clear plexiglass. All right, so what we did there, we saved about 80 bucks. These things are about 20 bucks a piece, something like that. But what we did on this whole project, we did for $9 for the needle paint that I've got coming, about $10 for semi-gloss or satin spray paint, and this plastic sheet I got off Amazon for roughly $7. So for about 20, 30 bucks, we were able to take our gauges apart, clean them, and make sure everything, all the connections and everything weren't corroded on the inside of the gauges, put them back together, put new lenses in them, paint the bezels, and they look brand new now. I did go ahead and order some LED bulbs, so we got to add that to it. They're a couple of bucks a piece, so let's just say less than 50 bucks or so. Our gauges look brand new. Now, if you sent your gauges out, whether it's on a hot rod or a Porsche or whatever you're working on, you're gonna spend a lot of money. But here we go. That's before, and of course this has still got residue on it, but that's after. We're gonna be able to see through these things now instead of not. Man, I'm happy. I'm happy with the way the clock came out, and I'm gonna be happy with the way this comes out too. And then the gauge will come on. You get the gist. You couldn't see in this gauge before, and now you can, and that's what it's going to look like. To get these things back together, you saw where I had to take a flat screwdriver and open it up around the edges, around this lip. To get it back on, you want to push it flat on a surface, and then you gently work this lip back over the edge of the gauge, making sure that everything is seated in its proper spot, and make sure you don't have any fingerprints on the inside of the glass like I've got now. And then I've got a lot of this plexiglass dust on the inside. So I definitely don't want to put it back together now. And then also touch your needles up so they'll all match, and you'll be good to go. I'm going to show you guys this in another video after I finish it. It may be a week before that stuff gets here. So, well guys, after this week, I deserve to sit down for a minute. It's been a tough one. You saw the Bronco video. Woo! Man, what a lot of work. 1 step forward and 5 steps back. And it wasn't fun. Still digging myself out of that one, but there's light at the end of the tunnel. Don't forget to go to SpankysHotRods.com. Get you some of them Spankys t-shirts. Support the channel and help send my grandkids to college maybe. I don't know. But anyway, if you're through watching this crazy video and you got plenty to do on your own, then get out in the garage and go build something. See you the next episode.